Welcome to Who Wears Your Pants. I'm here today with my wonderful cousin Jake, who
Hey guys.
is an adventurer, a father, and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm just the cousin. I don't know. I'm visiting from Austin, Texas, during this wonderful pandemic, and Kirsten and I talk endlessly about the most bizarre stuff. So we figured we'd get it on record, and we'll see. We'll probably run out of battery with the momentum we've had just chatting today. We woke up. What time did I see you this morning?
6:30 in the morning, I think, was the first time.
Yeah, and we've pretty much probably blown anything we could talk about with just getting it all out before we got in here. So.
You're like, and I'm done talking.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question that I have to ask you, obviously, is who wears your pants?
Oh, yeah. That's what we're doing right now. So where does that come from, Kirsten? Do you remember? I think I remember a semblance of where it came from, but I kind of want to hear your take and
my memory of where it came from. I do remember that we're at a family event. Maybe it was like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. And I was trying to ask, in relationships, it seems like someone always wears the pants in the relationship. And I think I was asking you, Jake, or maybe my brother, I forget, or just people in general, who wears the pants in their relationship. But it came out of my mouth as, who's wearing your pants?
So who wears your pants, Jake?
Yeah.
Talking to me and my wife, Melanie. So.
And ever since then, it just became this family thing where whenever we would see each other, we would ask, who's wearing your pants?
Yeah, that's like the capstone of Kirstenisms, which are there highlights? You're notorious for having some really unique phrases and questions and interpretations of the world that are probably one of my favorite qualities of you and probably drive a lot of your creativity. But do you have some famous Kirstenisms we can share?
You know what? I actually had started to create a note, like a note on my phone of all of the things that I said that just made you guys laugh.
Do you have that? You don't have to bring it out now.
I'd have to look in my phone and see if I could find it. But I should probably make a little booklet out of it. But I think that who wears your pants was one of the first ones.
Awesome.
That I wrote down. But okay, so who wears your pants?
Oh, you got to share the pants. Is that our topic today? Is there something tied into that?
Well, we're here to talk about relationships today.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in a good relationship, nobody wears the pants. But yeah, if we're talking about the traditional,
like everyone's naked is what you're saying.
I mean, early on, especially, right? Isn't that kind of how you build things?
I think that I recall that I wanted to be wearing a skirt at some point.
A skirt.
Yes.
Skirt and short combo.
Yeah, like what you wore as a little girl as a relationship.
I think you did say that. Yeah, that was a good moment.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit about so Jake, you're married.
Yes.
How long have you guys been married for?
It was 8 years this year.
Really?
Like a month ago.
I remember going to your wedding. It was a good time.
That was a fun time.
Open bar.
As it should be. Don't send me an invite if you don't have an open bar.
Oh, okay. This is actually this reminds me of the question I wanted to ask about weddings, though.
Yeah.
Is what was the weirdest thing that you had at your wedding that you wanted?
Ooh.
Or that maybe your wife wanted.
So Melanie and I, we like Chipotle, and they actually catered our rehearsal dinner, but not like dropped off burritos. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those things, like I think people were there and they're like, what is this? But instead of dropping off burritos, we had like white glove, like they set it up and you went through the line like at this art gallery that we had set up, kind of like this space, except much bigger. And kind of a blank canvas space that you can do a lot with. And we had him go through that. And I'm sure some of our family members were like, this is not for, like, that was one of those things that was like for us, not for everybody.
Yeah.
But we pretty much had like your boring, with all the wonderful people there made it, but it was like your typical 2012 Pinterest wedding with everything to be expected. All those elements. I don't think we did too many out of the box things, but what's driving the question? Is there something that you saw recently, or is there something out there?
No, I just feel like having like in the past probably like 5 years gone to so many weddings that have been driven by this like bizarro Pinterest throw up industry that has like become what weddings are now. Everyone just has to like have this like weird stuff.
Yeah.
And then it totally detracts from like the purpose of the entire wedding in the first place. And so I'm curious, I was just curious if like, maybe not even at your own wedding, but what's the weirdest thing you've seen at like, cause you've gone to a lot of weddings, right? Like what's the weirdest thing that you've seen at a wedding?
While I think of that, I'm just glad we're moving away from that. Like this younger generation, they're not messing around with diamond rings. They're not messing around with, this, I think we had them, so be careful, but the box of flip-flops that people can wear on the dance floor when their feet start hurting. Like, why do you need any of that stuff? It's just wasteful and you throw it all away. But what have I seen?
Like a box of flip-flops.
It's like it's just junk you throw away. And like you're saying, it's the marriage, not the wedding that people should be investing in. I think they wake up the next day and that's a harsh reality for some people. So
yeah. And the amount of money
and
that
then
gets
what do you do
blown on that? Well, and it's like, I think too, people are talking about like, you spend like all this money on like flowers or something like that. And then for a wedding, but it's like, you could buy the same flowers, not for a wedding, and it'd be a fraction of the cost.
But look who they're dealing with. That's moms, dads.
Oh, that maybe it's more
dad writing a check he's never had to write for an event for a family. Like I wonder what Southern California cost of a wedding is, but think about the dad who's never bought a car that costs that much. I bet he has some opinions all of a sudden when daughter or son is asking for 30 grand. Are you Googling it right now?
Yeah. I just Googled it. The average cost of a wedding in California is $31,000.
$31,000. So that's average.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there are far more elaborate, expensive weddings.
Let's just say the neighborhood you're living in is probably going to be pushing that number a little bit. So
yeah.
I
mean, think about it. That's like
that's a lot.
An education.
It's a down payment on a decent house.
That is a
Maybe
car.
Not here. That's a
almost 3 of my cars.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. I've always found this interesting. My father-in-law, probably one of the greatest guys ever, gave us the opportunity, to which I think there's no right answer, which is you can have. I have some money set aside for this. I set aside this money. And you guys can have it for whatever you want. You can have it for your wedding. It's for a wedding, but if that's not your shtick, then you could put it down on a house. And it's like, no matter what, you're gonna have some sort of regret for. I mean, talk about a first world problem, but some sort of regret for what you're gonna do with them. Because if you do one, you're gonna miss the opportunity for the other. So you could be living in your nice house or a house that you have a down payment on, nice down payment, thinking, oh, I wish we had that wedding. And then conversely, you could be, having your great wedding and going, man, we should have totally saved that money.
Yeah.
And I think
there's always option C where you do neither.
What do you do? Just like, just throw it on the bed and roll around in it, or what do you?
Throw it on the bed, roll around,
or just sit on it. I mean,
not wear pants, and then take that cash and then put it in the bank.
I know we're related, but is that how you talk dirty to oh, just put that money in the bank? That's the most the sexiest story you could tell
about. Put it in
about.
some stocks and bonds.
Some S&P index funds.
There's nothing I love more than some secure investing.
Oh, Jesus. This is before, for anybody that's watching this, we were testing the microphones and we were doing ASMR, a test. Do you know anyone who does that or is into that? And can you explain what it is?
ASMR. I don't know what it actually stands for, but it's basically like you whisper at a specific tone into a microphone, and it's supposed to do something where it activates something in I think it's your neural system that actually causes you to feel this high sensation, and you get goosebumps, and it's kind of euphoric. Yeah. So people will listen to it. And
apparently most people have some sort of reaction to it, but the whole whispering or there's so many fun things people are doing on the internet these days. What's the other one? There's I think it's called mukbang. I'm going to mispronounce it and sound like an idiot, but mukbang or mukbang. And it's where people eat on camera. So
I'll do that.
I mean, especially if people are paying you, but these people have these followings. I think it's more probably women than men that are doing this. And I don't know that it's kind of on that risque sexual level, but I think people
Mukbang.
Is it M or B?
Mukbang.
Mukbang. Wow. Someone's going to comment that we have no idea what we're talking about because we don't.
Hey, it's fine.
But yeah, I think there's an audience of people out there that just want to feel like they're sitting across the table from somebody eating. So maybe they're eating with that person. But apparently these people sit there and they've got, selfie camera on them or vlog camera.
Yeah.
And they just consume large quantities of food, and they have really nice condenser mics like this, and you can hear them chewing. So I don't know. I think some of it's a crossover into this ASMR thing. But yeah, there's big fan groups for some of these big, do you have a video pulled up? How many views do these people have?
This is real. I just looked on Wikipedia. This is wild. And it's a broadcast in which a host consumes food while interacting with the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
sign me up.
What do you have to say about that?
I'll whisper into a mic and then eat a sandwich.
And then don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And Patreon and however else you make money off of that deal. But I mean, I shove food in my face for free all the time. And
why not get paid for it?
Yeah.
That is weird. People have some weird fetishes, but when you were talking earlier, it was making me think about why is it that so many social things, going on a date, for instance, has to be revolved around a meal?
Oh gosh, that's probably so deep into the human experience that I don't know. I could make up all kinds of reasons that could maybe pass for legitimate, but we even do it ceremonially for other things, like we cheers for it. We'll pour a little bit of champagne for something important, or we'll I'm trying to think of a food example, but yeah, there's so much there's so much behind that.
I don't really like it though.
What? That? Oh yeah,
it bothers me.
Okay, so what are your deal breakers that you'd be embarrassed to admit?
Yes. What is yours?
Well, the example that I brought up, which is relevant to this, because mukbang, bong. I can't stand people eating in obnoxious ways in front of me. So I don't know that I'm embarrassed
to admit
that, but it's kind of something that should be trivial. But yeah, it's little stuff. I think that's what makes it embarrassing because
it's so minutely.
Yeah, it's really that would get you fired up. Huh. But if something's a deal breaker, I think the deal breaker is that if you recognize it. We talked about this earlier. I'm gonna see if we can open this up. But if you recognize something that minor,
yeah,
is it reasonable to ask somebody to change that behavior? What was the example I used? If somebody says especially or espresso or just some really minute, fluency thing. If you tell them to do it and they can't figure out how to change it, like, is it reasonable to think that's a deal breaker? Are you a crazy person for?
Well, I think that if you met a wonderful human and they elected to continue to describe espresso as espresso,
Like,
that should probably be overlooked.
yeah, so maybe I'm crazy. It should be overlooked. Like you should just let it slide. Like, you just have to compromise and that be. Yeah, I think that's why that's an embarrassing deal breaker, because it's ridiculous then.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I haven't really been confronted with that specific scenario, but like, I have a friend who eats. It's not going to be a lot of eating stuff because like the sound
and it really
stuff.
bothers you.
Well, he holds his spoon like a shovel. And you know, it's funny because they're
like this.
And like I love the guy, but he's a one-upper. And every time he tries to one-up me, just in the back of my head, I'm like, you shovel-eating motherfucker. What are you? Yeah. And I'm like, you can't one-up me when that's in my head. So it's interesting to like think that someone that has no self-awareness to, you know, what I consider like a pretty basic. Maybe I have high standards. Tell me I do.
Maybe you do, but also I feel if it really bothered you and this was someone that was really important in your life, you could say, hey man, oh, you got a shovel? Or like, hey man, you know, can I show you how to hold a spoon?
Yeah.
Just in case you're ever in like a professional dinner or something, you know, just so that in those instances, and also when you're eating with me, that you can do it right.
Yeah, you know what's weird is, so Katie, my sister, your other cousin from my family, she's worse than me, I think, with, there's a name for it, where you have, it's not a fear, but a discomfort when you can like hear people or see people chewing. This is so bizarre. We're taking this in a weird direction, but
make it weird. I think that I am just like a pretty easygoing about a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, not that many things like that bother me. I don't think. But you know what, though? This reminded me, I'll tell you a story. This reminded me of a date that I went on. It was like a really just like bizarre from the start. And like, I immediately wanted to leave. But
why?
I just immediately knew that I was like, I have no interest in seeing this person again. I just was like, the vibe that I got was just kind of weird. And I was like, oh, here we go. Well, I'm already here. So I guess I'll just like power through the next 45 minutes and just like have a conversation with a human, you know, just like connect with a person and then go on with my life.
While they're eagerly trying to make a connection.
Well, I am?
No, them.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, you know you're done.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know you're done.
Yeah.
You're not going to let them know till it's time to walk to your car, and they're not getting to walk you there. So
the reason I bring this up is because he had like just gone for a run on the beach. He goes and gets food, and then he tells me before he starts eating, he goes, I'm a really messy eater, just to warn you.
Okay. So self-awareness, just not able to do anything about it. Like, well, was it a choice that he hasn't fixed it, or
exactly?
Everything
is a choice. Like, so and I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I feel like people say that,
yeah, and
then they're really not. He started eating a burrito, and I felt like I didn't know what to do with myself.
It was that bad? Okay. I wasn't sure if when you brought this up that it was like related to what I was saying. It was. That's eaten in a way that's disgusting. Going through I have smackers. I have people with food all over their face. I'm not guilty. Like, I'm great at getting stuff on my shirt, especially if I have something to do afterward.
Naturally, yeah. But
that's good. All right, so what's your answer to what's your stupid deal breaker?
You know what? It's funny because I feel like even the things that I'm like, that is like a real deal breaker, retroactively, when I think about it, I've dated someone that has had pretty much all of them.
Were they more or less attractive?
What, because of it?
No, I'm saying
were they an attractive person?
Yeah. So just a little background on my comment, since that didn't land, is Kirsten and I were talking about this earlier today, that your attractiveness level determines how you're interpreted in hilarious ways and sometimes not so fortunate ways. But like if someone's being creepy, if they're wildly attractive, they're suddenly not creepy. So.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? I heard this thing once, and it was like, did you ever read the book 50 Shades of Grey, or like watch
I read that.
Everyone's like, everyone every day.
But I'm aware of it. Yeah. Sorry.
Everyone is like, if he was poor, there's no, like, he would have been the biggest creep on the planet. He would have been a stalker because he was, but he was just a billionaire stalker. So it was sexy.
You know what would be hilarious to see is, what was it, the Red Room of Pain from that book?
Yes.
Would see like what a budget version of that would be. Like some stuff you got at a junkyard.
Like in your closet.
Yeah. Your sex swing is just an old tire hanging from a rope, or like, I don't even know. Bunch of bootleg sex toys.
Oh my god, that would be like the hillbilly S&M dungeon. Like in a barn.
I don't have the capacity or the desire to put it together, but somebody should make, that'd be a great skit. Make a skit where, what was it, Christian Grey? If Christian Grey were poor, how that book would have played out.
Yes.
And if she was ugly. Just a poor guy and an ugly girl trying to make some weird power connection. Yeah.
Oh, the deal breakers. Yeah. Because I think I don't have any like weird dumb ones. And like all of the ones that I'm like, oh, I would never date someone that smokes cigarettes. Definitely dated someone that smokes cigarettes. Like, yeah, things like that.
So are there deal breakers that in hindsight were stupid? Like, we're, especially like when we're younger and we're just navigating that, you think things are important at one point in your life, and then they're not.
And the opposite of deal breakers, what were like the things that made you realize that Melanie was who you want to spend your life with?
Oh shoot. That she tolerated me. I mean, that's big. Like, for you to not be someone else's deal breaker is pretty flattering. Right? That's my bar. She just happens to be really attractive and wonderful, but that's my bar. No. If I were to come down to like certain traits, though, it was like we had a really good dynamic, and I think there's like real fun. I love to watch new couples. Like when you're a people watcher, when you're out at a restaurant and you're like, look at that, this is what happens when you're married for a few years too, is
or when you're single and alone at a cafe, just watching couples.
Exactly. Like, so like in my scenario, we go out, we have little kids. We have a 2 and a 4-year-old ish. And like when we go out, we talk about practical stuff, and it's like, let's not, like, we didn't go out to like talk about the same thing we would talk about on the couch. So, you either make up little games intentionally or not, but I've always loved people watching, and the best thing are couples. And it's like, I wonder if that's their first date.
Yes.
Let's get real ASMR here. I wonder if that's their first date, or like, are they on their 50th date? And usually you look at each other and it's like kind of a harsh reality, because you're like, that's their 50th date, and they look just like us looking around at all the other couples trying to just play that same game. But yeah, when you see that new couple like navigating what their compatibility is super cool. And like, we were talking as we walked in about taking vacations, and I want to hear about your relationship, either past or present. Because one of my favorite questions to ask couples is, I'm asking it to you in the setup here, but is, when you go on vacation, what do you do? Because if you're both so I'll give my example. I run around, I can't sit still. You got to like drug me, probably literally, to get me to like stay at the pool for more than 20 minutes. I'm all for it for 10 or 20 minutes. But then I'm on vacation. I'm somewhere like I've never been. I don't need to see the resort pool for 4 days. I want to see wherever I'm at. I want to meet people. I want to, and it's just, it invigorates me. And then there's Melanie, who's like, she's all in every day, and she wants to like counteract that. Mm-hmm. And so she's reading the book for 3 hours while I'm like, what do you want to do? What do you want to, like a little kid.
And she's like, I want to read my book. Thank you.
And I love asking this question because I love watching people fight but sometimes and it's funny. Like you have people over, like a couple, or wherever you're at, and you ask them that question. It's like, wait, maybe we're like really incompatible in that regard. But it's fun to, it doesn't mean that's not a deal breaker for most people. It's like, yeah, you just had to compromise around that. And so yeah, I'll ask the question is like, in your current or past relationships, are there like real, either that one specifically or like a big tell of incompatibility, but it kind of complements each other? Like I'll keep hogging the mic over here, but she's taught me how to chill out more, and I've taught her how to I don't know if I've taught her anything,
wind up,
but I've taught her how to be more adventurous, and we both appreciate that, because shoot, I always need someone to kind of cool me down and make me sit still. And I think everyone, in my opinion, could benefit from going out and being more adventurous and trying new things and expanding their worldview. So we've had a lot of fun with that. We've had a lot of fun like playing with the fact that it's like a little bit of a conflict, but it's fun to play with. So yeah, I've got more on that, but I want to hear yours.
About my vacation experience.
Your vacation experience, or like a way that like you envision the world.
That is the broadest question.
No, like the way that you, I'm sorry. No. The way that you approach the world together. So like going out to dinner, is one of you going to want to go to a dive, or one of you want to go to a fancy restaurant? Like, and where's what are the things you find yourself compromising on in a healthy way?
I don't think that in my experiences that I've like ever had someone that's been like very different than me in that regard.
If I asked them, would that?
I don't think so.
So you find people that are like on the same wavelength as you more often than not? Okay.
And it's funny because actually there was one time when a guy asked me out on a date. He was with a friend of mine, saw a picture of us together, and was like, I want to go out with this girl. She gives him my number. He calls me up. So I've never met him. Yeah. Like I don't know anything about him other than what she's told me. And he asked me, without ever having met me, to go on this date. And when he told me where he wanted to take me, it was like this like really fancy restaurant.
Mm-hmm. And this is a first date?
Yeah.
Okay. And
I was like, in the moment, I was like, because that's just like not really me, I think, in a way. But, and I like basically,
there's a lot behind that.
I kind of like took control of it, and I was like, let's go somewhere else.
So wait, what? So you pushed him to go somewhere else. Did it work?
We went somewhere else.
Where'd you go?
We went to a restaurant, but it's no longer open anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but I meant, and I was like, no, like that's not really like my vibe. Especially, but then I felt kind of like a little bit hypocritical because I always just like bash on dudes for trying to take you out to a cup of coffee. So.
Wait, what's wrong with that?
Like that it's just so casual that it's it's like flippant and
see, I never got
too lazy
and Tinder experience, and you've had. That's where you and I we're not that far apart in it. I think we're like 6 or 7 years, but yeah, we're not that far apart generationally. So Tinder fascinates me because how do you I feel like you don't have as much background on the person, so you kind of have to pre-screen them more quickly, don't you? I mean, for the same reason that guy you knew before a 45-minute dinner, it was over.
Yeah.
And so for you, it was painful. Like when didn't you wish that was a coffee at that moment?
No. Well, I mean, it basically was because we went to a store and he got a burrito, and then we walked around, and then about halfway through he asked me, he brought up this is, And then at this point, I'm just like enjoying the experience for what it is. And this guy started asking me like if I had ever been blocked before. And I was like, not that I'm aware of.
Did he block you right there?
No. And then and he brought it up and he's like, yeah, like girls have definitely blocked me before. And in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, why are you telling me this?
Because
yeah. So bizarre. And then just to flash forward a couple of days later, he sent me, and I didn't talk to him after he left, he sent me a text that said, block test? ?
Oh man, that's a secure man.
Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like the modern day equivalent of like, what would be like calling up that girl and then like hanging up but just being happy she answered or something. That's just, there's a lot of sadness there. Yeah. But so we talked about this over your kitchen table this morning, is like relationships being this accountability mechanism. Like one of the benefits, in my opinion, and probably some others, is the benefit of the relationship is that you make each other better people, like in a good relationship, right?
Yeah.
And that's like not always through the easiest process, but like that guy was not looking in the mirror going, why am I getting blocked all the time? He was just like, I guess this is my life. Like I'm going to get blocked for... Yeah. He was waiting for the inevitable, and he probably was set up to make it happen if it wasn't. Because if you walk into it, like it's great to walk in expecting you're going to fail, because then you approach it differently, right? Yeah. Like rejection therapy, you can run out and you're like, I'm gonna go approach these VCs about this business idea, and I'm probably gonna get knocked down. But it's like, yeah, that's great. You're probably right, but you're better off than if you didn't do it. So go out there and like take your shot. I hate that phrase, but go like, he's just ready to fail. That's sad. That's an attractive quality.
Yeah, no, not at all. But you know what? I will say this was a good experience for me, because when he reached out to me and he asked me if it was a block test, and I replied and I said, didn't block you, and then he asked me out again, and I said, and I was very straightforward, because I think that that's something that a lot of girls don't do. It's like, myself included. I used to never do that. I used to just like, oh no, not today. Nah. Yeah. Maybe like another time. And then you just like lead them on. And I was like, I like really appreciate you coming to meet up with me, but I don't think I would like to go out with you again. Like, I wish you well.
So he got more out of a 47-minute relationship than he probably does over like a 4-date relationship, because maybe he didn't get anything out of it in this scenario, but like you gave him the opportunity to get more out of your interaction.
And I almost wanted to tell him like, hey man, just as a tip, probably don't talk about being blocked by girls and then texting block test.
Oh, that's rough.
And at first I was like, is this a joke? But I don't think it was.
No,
it 100% was not a joke.
It's not even funny. It's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So there have been a few interesting experiences, I would say.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think I'm hung up on this, but I'm interested to hear that you like, after those experiences, that you're not a proponent of the coffee thing. Because I hear on the other side, like, girls don't want to go on real dates anymore. And like, sure, it's because you're terrible. But like the coffee I see as like a screen thing. So that's cool to hear that you want a little bit more time. You're willing to give it a little bit more shot, it sounds like. Yeah.
And I think that like that was probably one of like the least good experiences that I have had with going on a date with someone. But I think I'm usually, I was pretty good at like vetting out someone to be like, is this person worth my time?
Yeah.
And like the way that I would gauge that is like if they were engaging in conversation and like didn't bore me.
That makes sense. That seems like it should be the point all the time. So in that same kind of category, what's aside from your current boyfriend, because I'm sure that was like the best thing that's ever happened from a first date standpoint, but like aside from coffee, aside from like a 45-minute nice fancy dinner, like what's the best first step someone's taken Whether obviously the connection wasn't lasting, but like it was outstanding in terms of creativity or connection in terms of like what they did.
Like, are you saying like the best first date I've ever gone on?
Yeah, but not because of the person, because of what they did, like to orchestrate it. So like something that might be universal to someone listening to this, that's gonna be like, I'm gonna replicate that, or I'm gonna, and it might have been deeply personal, something in your profile or something like that. But
I'll tell like two stories. So one time I went on a first date and we went to a bookstore, which was actually, as someone that like reads a lot, I thought that was like a fun thing to do.
Did he have a cue to know? Because that's a risky.
We talked about it.
Okay.
That's cool. That was like actually a fun, like just thing to do in general.
Yeah.
So the first date, I guess you could call it technically, the first time I met my now boyfriend, we went to the grocery store together. We met in the Vaughn's parking lot at like 10 p.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will tell you this, actually, it's funny because it's like actually a really good way to get to know someone.
Oh, yeah.
Because for one, you know what they're buying. Like,
yeah, and how
which
they approach
tells
that.
a lot about a person.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways. And two, it was just like a really funny, I mean, he's really funny. So
was it the PB bonds? Oh no, that's that. I'm thinking of a different story anyway.
No, I didn't live in PB when I met him. But anyway, right. so it was just like a funny thing to like basically go on a date and walk around a grocery store.
So what did you learn during that? How long were you in the grocery store?
Well, we were in the grocery store for a while and then we like hung out in my car. It basically felt like I was in middle school or high school rather. Yeah, I just got my driver's license.
Although I will go, this goes back to one of the conversations. We've had a lot of conversations today, but the first rule of taking a girl to a grocery store for your first date is being attractive. And the second rule is not being unattractive. So I'm sure you can think of a lot of people that would have not worked out well for her, even in concept, right?
Like if a guy asked me out to go to the grocery store.
That's impressive. I wonder, do you ever wonder if that's his thing? Like, has he did he like crack the code that if you take a girl to the grocery store, it like works?
I have no idea. I can ask him. How many grocery store dates have you gone on?
Oh, tomorrow. I bet you
he doesn't remember that was even like how we met. But
yeah, because he brought so many girls to the grocery store, he doesn't remember that that's what you guys did.
Probably. No, I remember we were like trying to meet up, and it was like he had been traveling or something. I like don't remember the specifics, but like nothing was open, and we were like trying to find something to do. And at that point, he was like, "Well, you can come over to my house and we can grill or something like that, or we can go to the grocery store." And I was like, "I don't want to go to your house, so I'll go to the grocery store."
But you know what's interesting is maybe he's tapping into that thing we were talking about earlier about eating together, and like that was his because it's still food related. Like sitting across from someone eating or preparing to eat food is like that's weird. It's weird to think that bonds people.
Yeah, you know it's funny, and I'll tell this is that my dad does not like he's not a fan of like dining as like an activity.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the same way, but I feel like I am that. I don't know specifically why he's like that, but for me, I think that there are like there are like so many things you can do with your time in your life. And like, I just like think spending like 8 hours cooking, just eat for 15 minutes to then clean dishes for an hour is just preposterous.
Yeah. I think especially like at home and to do all that is kind of, I don't know. There's a couple things working there though. Like it's a gesture that you're willing to like invest something in someone else. But like, it's really just an excuse to do what we're doing right now, which is, take out the mic. Yeah. And like that's why I was so excited to hear that you think that the date should be a dinner. Cause that's like, to me, I was like, that's kind of a dying art. Like I've been out of the game a little while, but,
that I think it should be a dinner. I just think it should be
something a little more lengthy, but I think a dinner is still a good format. I mean, a dinner, a dinner opens up a lot of like you can see how somebody eats or how they order, how they treat the waitress or waiter.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's how they handle the bill situation, which is all getting more fun probably every day for guys. Like
so let me ask
there's
you
no
this.
right answer.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on who pays for what?
So I'm a little torn on this. I think you should not have had to pay for your boyfriend's groceries. That was unfair of him. But no, just kidding.
I was like, wait, I did not pay for his groceries.
But yeah, so for me personally, I generally liked to pick up. But my last date was in 2008.
That's not true. You date your wife.
Yeah, but it's all the same money. So it's really who's too lazy to grab their wallet first. It all comes from the same place. So so it's been a while since I've had to really think about that, but I liked that. I do think that the old wallet reach is the way to go
for a lady.
Yeah, or if you're one of those people that wants to go Dutch and you're insistent upon it, like the first time you try, you should, in my opinion, it's polite to give the response of no, like let me split this with you, and then he insists, and then you let him. But if you insist twice, he should let you split it. I probably wouldn't overthink that. I think once you're in the scenario, you kind of navigate it.
That's a lot to
and
remember.
You have to respect. You have to kind of gauge. That's just my like knee jerk of like how I would gauge whether or not to push, because you're gonna end it. You know, block check the second that you read that wrong. And I think that's why I think it's cool that like a dinner still serves a lot of that function. And it's also, what restaurant did you pick? Like it's the first thing I thought of when you said the fancy restaurant is this Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where they get a boat and he's like, they're at the boat store or the like West Marine, like nautical supply.
Yeah.
And he says, well, you got to understand the implication. Or they said, we got to get the mattress. And he's like, what? And he's like, you got to get the mattress, for the implication, basically insinuating that if a girl comes on a boat, she thinks that like, you think that there's like an implied consent situation. But I think that the check can be that way too, if it's not like a cordial thing. And a fancy dinner is like, that's a faux pas. Unless that person is super into food and there's a story behind it. Like you love books, but if the girl loves fine dining, sure, take her to fine dining.
Yeah. But that was how I read it, was that this is like what he's into. And that's like, I was like, I mean, sure, take me to a nice dinner, please. But like,
yeah, but then you're obligated. Like you're not obligated. That's going to go in a really south direction really fast. But there is like a weird setup there.
Oh, are you talking about like what comes next?
No, yeah, I don't want it. That wasn't my intention, but okay. I didn't want it. I really didn't want it to be interpreted that way because that's not my intention. But yeah, I think it implies that you're moving faster, whether that's physically or personally, or that there is this like, there's kind of like a power thing that goes on with that, which is, and maybe that's the relationship they're seeking, is somebody who likes that being taken care of type of thing. And for the people that enjoy being on the receiving end of that, that's wonderful. Like, sure, find the person that you match with, and that's a thing. But yeah. But for me, I'm too cheap to. So I didn't fully answer the question, but long term, split everything. Second date, third date, at least that's when you start opening up that door where it's mutual, or you take turns. Taking turns is great, because then it's like, yeah, he paid last time, so I guess I have to go out with him again. Not really, but kind of that like, well, you can playfully, you owe me it. Next dinner's on you, right? Well, okay, we'll pick somewhere really nice. You can play around with him.
Okay, so you've been married for 8 years.
Oh no, yeah.
How do you keep the romance alive?
Oh, you modify your definition of romance. No. You got to work at it. It comes and goes on its own, but I like your thing. Like, you're still married, you're still dating. Like, don't forget, you can't forget to date, even if it's in the living room. Like, we have little kids. I'm too cheap to get a sitter all the time and go across town and do all that. But set aside some time. And yeah, I think you just have to like not stop taking that other person into consideration. It sounds easy. It's like one of those simple but not easy things. Like, you get busy, you set it down, but as soon as usually it's mutual, like you both set it down at the same time, and then you got to pick it back up, and like one of you has to pick it back up and carry the other person through it, initially, and you just have to keep that going, and you have to keep talking, which I clearly have no problem doing.
When did you introduce Melanie to your family?
Ooh,
was that weird?
No.
Or when did you meet her family?
I met her family relatively quickly because there was a wedding in her hometown. Probably like months after we started dating. So it was like, bring nobody or bring this guy you've been dating. But it was weird that we were so close so fast, and that never like faded. It was like there really from the beginning, and that's where I can't, like, you're asking me for like blanket advice from my experience, and I don't know, like it just happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun, and it's unique, and it doesn't happen to everybody. And it's when you're outside of that, it sounds like such bullshit, but when you're inside of it, it's kind of cool, like to just be like, I guess I get what people say, what people describe this as.
I kind of feel like when you're like younger, it's a bigger deal. Is that weird?
A bigger deal? What? In what way?
To like like when you're like young, to like be like, I'm gonna introduce my boyfriend to my family, and then you get older and you're like, whatever, these are my parents.
Yeah, there's so much that goes with that, because then like the return policy becomes different. Like if you decide that you don't like that person and you need to like Irish exit out of that relationship, then they're invested. And like, if you get really into it, like mom and dad love that person, like they're breaking up with them too. And so I think that's, I don't know, that's an overthought way to approach that. But
okay, let me ask you this question. How long did it take for you to feel comfortable pooping around your wife?
Oh, I'm not I love this question because I hate this question. This is good for your podcast. This is terrible for me to contemplate. I really don't know. Probably not that long. There's probably alcohol involved. We were really young. So
how about for her?
Probably not long enough. No.
She did it.
I don't know.
Soon.
If I'm guessing where you're going with this, I think that's like a pivotal thing. When you're like, people talk about sex like it's an intimate moment. No, that's an intimate moment. When you, especially, like when you're really young, what's the smallest apartment you've lived in? You are not distancing yourself from the war zone in that scenario. Like, that's intimate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, yeah. How about you?
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you talking like months or weeks? Or you just don't even remember?
It's been so long, but probably sooner than anybody else. I think she was, it's not that we wouldn't. I think we just probably chose not to for at least 6 months.
That was like longer than I thought you were going to say.
But there's like workarounds. Like they're in the shower. You just make sure like that you're in the same room. But you're not like brushing your teeth while you're like watching them do their business.
Oh, God.
What, that's not a reality? You've never done that?
I personally haven't. So no, just some mystery still.
It's a good marker of relationship status though.
Yeah, like
Degree.
You're okay when you've pooped and they're like in the next room.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, I think you ease into it. Like first, you hear about these people who, like, if you live in a big apartment building, they'll like go to a neighbor's house when they first start dating someone, or like they just won't poop. I mean, do you know anyone that doesn't poop in public?
That used to be me for like a really long time.
We had a friend. Actually, it's the guy. God, I hope he never watches this. If he listens to this. It's the guy who eats like with a shovel.
Oh my God.
But his kid,
no more.
His kid is like 7 years old now, but for years he could not poop in public.
Yeah.
And I found it fascinating because they decided to move. And I was like, that new house is public to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I won't say his name, but I was like, hey, ask your son what he's going to do. And I could only imagine that he just had this look on his face like, wait, you're selling my toilet?
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'll end with this story really fast because this doesn't have to do with relationships. But when I was like, I think 16 years old, 15 years old, I went to a summer camp.
Okay.
And I was in a cabin with like 6 other girls. And it was a week long. And on like day 5, someone admitted that they hadn't pooped yet. And all of us hadn't pooped yet. None of us could do it. We went like 6 days without pooping. Which I don't know. I think that's kind of a lot.
Kind of. That's like, I think like medical insurance has to cover that. That's incredible. Well, and like you're all a bunch of 90-pound girls probably, if it's the friend base I've seen at the age you're describing, and like they're doubling their body weight over that course of time. What did?
Oh my God.
So wait,
we all survived.
I have so many questions around that. Oh man,
we'll have to save the BM conversation for another podcast episode. But well, thank you so much, Jake, for joining. Who wears your pants?
Who wears your pants? That was fucking weird.